Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Grand Prix, where I, a clueless person, am going to be taught everything there is to know about Formula One by my best friends, who know substantially more than me. Now, I've got it easy. I've done nothing for this podcast. I've done no research, I've been sitting back, relaxing, but you guys have been spending the entire week looking at drivers, looking at all of the background information that there is to know. So, tell me about it.
You make it sound like it's an easy job. This has been a hard slog trying to find out all of this information because we want to give you not just piddly bits of facts about drivers and, you know, what they were doing last year. We've gone into their whole backstory. We can tell you what hospital they were born at if we wanted to. No.
I was going to say, I have not done that level of research.
But we want to give you full fact files on each of the 20 drivers for the 2025 season so that you can make an educated decision into who you are going to be rooting for.
You know, I won't remember anything from this by the time we start the season.
You will. We'll be testing you.
Yeah, I think you have way too much faith in me.
Expect a midterm exam.
Oh, God.
End of race exam.
Yeah. Let's hope all of this research has not been for nothing. All right, so we are going to run this in order of team standing in the Constructors' Championship. So we're going to start with McLaren drivers, and then we're going to go on to Ferrari drivers, Red Bull, etc. So McLaren drivers, take it away.
Okay, first off, we're starting with Lando Norris. He's a fan favourite for his impish charms. Do you know what impish means?
No.
Okay. I'll let you Google in your own time.
Thank you.
He's 25 years old. He started in F1 with McLaren in 2019. He had a very strong performance in his breakout year in Formula One. He has a very cheeky and very, now what would you say, cheeky chappy kind of vibe?
Yeah, he's a bit of a schoolboy.
Yeah.
Class clown vibes.
Yes. He's very sweet, but he's a very hard racer. And as he progressed through his time in Formula One, he got his first pole position in Russia and was nearly able to win, but lost out due to the rain. That was heartbreak for the Papaya fans.
Yeah, it wasn't easy to watch.
It wasn't. 2022 to 2023, he became McLaren's sort of lead driver as Carlos Sainz, his teammate, left. And as he continued through his time, 2024, the season that's just ended, was his time to shine. Do you know why? Of course you don't.
No, I don't.
McLaren were able to finally bring a race-winning car to the track. They were able to fight for the championships against Red Bull and Max Verstappen, who had long been very, very dominant. And he was able to bring home the Constructors' Championship for McLaren last year. So we're hoping that for 2025 that we can see Lando and Max and others be able to fight for the championship this year.
And he's done all of that by 25?
Yes.
That's crazy. You realise I'm 25. That's such a hit to the ego.
Yeah, you're a failure.
Yes, in comparison to him.
I would like to say, though, you've painted him in a very good light. Can I spill some tea?
Yeah.
Okay, because, you know, all of us were living brat summer in 2024. Oh. Lando Norris was living brat summer in 2022. He was in his brat era because he obviously had Sainz leave McLaren and he stepped up to the number one position with Daniel Ricciardo as his teammate. Now, Daniel Ricciardo had been racing in Formula One probably when Lando was still in nappies. And yet Ricciardo struggled to get accustomed to being a part of that team. And Lando kind of was, you know, slagging him off a bit in the press, saying like, oh, it's not my job to hold his hand, blah, 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 even though Sainz had previously held Lando's hand when he was trying to get into the sport and trying to fit into a team, his first ever team in Formula One. So there's a tiny bit of entitlement, and I think we're seeing that creep up more and more as he's been, you know, finding himself on podiums. The impishness has a little brat.
Well, he's been long-term friends with Max Verstappen, but that sort of hit its peak as they were battling for the 2024 season. And then in Mexico City, if you remember, Max got lots of penalties after shoving Lando off track. And Lando was not shy in coming forward and saying that he didn't really appreciate the way that Max was racing him. Yeah. So the friendship was under strain.
Yeah.
Brat Summer was not all it was cracked up to be for those two.
No, it was not.
I mean, if you told me there was this much drama involved in F1, I would have started watching a long time ago. That's the only thing you needed to do to sell me on this.
It's like the Kardashians of sport.
Okay, shall I move on to his teammate, Oscar Piastri?
Yes, it's an exciting one. I like Oscar Piastri.
So, Oscar Piastri is even younger than Lando, 23 years old.
Oh, that's a baby.
Yes, also a baby, and he debuted in F1 in 2023 with McLaren. But again, drama. because Alpine, which is a different team, put out a statement on all of their socials saying that he would be racing for them, even though he had never signed a contract for them. And Oscar basically went on Twitter and was like, lies, I'm not racing for them, I'm actually going to be racing for McLaren. And it was like this big bombshell, got memed, Alpine looked really silly, and McLaren were kind of just laughing like, haha, you thought he was going to race for you, but he's actually coming with us.
Can they do that? Can they just post these things without actually signing someone?
He was part of Alpine, so formerly known as Renault's young driver development program, which all the teams have, so that they can scout young talent that are moving up the younger formulas, and then they can get into Formula One and they can harvest that brilliant young talent and then bring them up to be the greats like Max and Lewis and many others. So he'd spent a lot of time, and obviously the things that the team are doing is they're investing into his future. So what he then does is he's going into the driver simulators and he's being able to get data for them and he's being able to race races for them. So they kind of just assumed that he would just go into their team, but he didn't sign any contract. There was a window of time where he could have signed that contract, and they would have been able to say, we're taking up the option of Oscar Piastri, he'll be our driver. But he didn't sign that, so he said, I absolutely am not going to your team. I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you announcing this? You didn't even talk to me.
Their PR team messed up.
Yeah, what, you couldn't have sent him a text? What the hell? So then he basically came out and said, no, I'm signing with McLaren, and that's that. So before he'd even hit the racetrack, everyone was like, who is this hot boy that everyone's after that we haven't even seen race yet?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pressure on his shoulders. And I don't believe that McLaren were particularly fast at the time. They weren't at their same sort of 2024 sort of brilliant speed and this car that was able to win lots of races. 2023, they weren't anywhere. They really hadn't got their heads together when it came to the regulations. So he sort of burst onto the scene and you weren't able to see that raw brilliance that we've been able to see over 2024. So there was a bit of drama and he kind of looked shady, but he 100% wasn't once you started to understand the situation.
But since he's debuted with McLaren and in the 2 years that he has been racing for them, he has managed to get 2 Grand Prix wins and 10 podium finishes, which is really good.
Yeah, he's an exciting young promise for the field, and I'm excited to see how he's able to tackle the next season coming up for 2025. I think he's got some things up his sleeve.
But again, we love a bit of drama, and Oscar just seems to have it in buckets, because his maiden win, which came in the Hungary 20...
His what, sorry?
His maiden win, so that
What's
means
a maiden win?
his first win.
Oh, his first win.
He was able to win a maiden. That's not a victory, just a maiden.
So his first F1 win came at the Hungarian 2024 race, and it didn't actually seem like it was going to go to him because basically he overtook Norris on the run down to the first corner on the first lap and led for the bulk of the race before his team pitted Lando Norris first, meaning after Piastri's pit stop, Norris ended up coming out ahead of him. And because it was a team call, everyone kind of expected team orders to be like, oh, okay, no, we kind of gave Norris the advantage over you. Piastri was leading before we did that, so, you know, you kind of need to swap back. And the team were making that call and saying to Norris, switch back around with him, and Norris was ignoring it until very, very late in the race where he eventually let him pass. But yeah, it was very dramatic. And again, Norris demonstrating a bit of brat.
That is not a very team player vibe.
Yeah, I think he was feeling the pressure of his first world championship slipping away from him and didn't want to give it up.
Yeah,
but
fair enough.
That's what makes you an
So
F1 driver.
would you say then McLaren is the most dramatic team in F1?
Whoa. We barely got through any of them, no.
We've done 1 out of 9
There's
teams
more
and you're
drama?
already trying to give away the crown.
You're declaring them the most dramatic. That's the only one we've gone through.
Shall we move on to Ferrari?
Yes, although she did ask what maiden means, so is any of this information going in? What's the point?
Do you remember what maiden means?
First race.
Well done. Okay, it's going in. We can go.
Well, what was the name of the first McLaren driver?
Lando Norris.
What was the name of the second driver?
Oscar Piastri.
Yes!
Oh my God.
She's learning.
I am learning. Also, I've seen pictures of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. I thought Oscar Piastri was way older.
No.
He looks way older.
No, but
doesn't.
Norris has a baby face.
He doesn't.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
does.
think Oscar Piastri, with love, peace and respect, I don't think he has the ability to grow like a beard yet. He doesn't look old.
He just says he has like Botox face.
He looks
Maybe
weathered.
I have the wrong person in my head.
Right,
Are you looking at Oscar Pistorius?
Not first step. Oh God, that.
Oh no, I'm thinking of signs.
That was the biggest signs we got that you're an idiot.
That guy. Never mind.
Right,
Turn the
moving
laptop
on.
as if I don't know what
Ferrari,
you're
come on, girls.
saying.
Back on track. Back to Ferrari.
Well, I mean, Ferrari are the talk of the town this year because after many years in Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton has decided to go to Ferrari. This is big news. He's the second oldest on the grid at 40 years
There's
young.
no need to do him like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's got a good face on him.
He
it must be
doesn't
said.
look it.
No, he doesn't.
That's the Botox.
So he debuted in F1 in 2007 with McLaren. Lewis's debut season into Formula One was still seen today as one of the most successful rookie seasons because he had Fernando Alonso, who is a formidable racer and has won 2 world championships, was his teammate, and they brought this young star of Lewis Hamilton onto the grid to see if he was all he was cracked up to be, and my God, did he bring a level of expertise, excitement, and talent to the grid.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was expecting it.
No.
Least of all, Alonso.
Yeah, he lost the championship in his first season by 1 single point. He came back in 2008 and he was able to win the season by 1 single point.
Imagine that in your second year in Formula One, winning the whole thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, after 2008, he was unable to kind of find his championship winning form, and the car that he had over the years, although very strong, not strong enough to give him any more victories and any more championships. So in 2013, he replaced the retiring Michael Schumacher in Mercedes, and people thought he was crazy to do so because McLaren were at the time further up the constructors. They had a faster car, and Mercedes were sort of midfield team, weren't doing the most. But there was things in the background that you couldn't see, and it was all moving in the right direction. And 2014, they had new regulations, they had turbo hybrid engines. Basically, they came out and they dominated that era of Formula One. They just nailed the regulations. They had some brilliant minds like Ross Brawn and Paddy Lowe and brilliant people, and Lewis was able to win. 2014, 2015, we don't talk about 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. So Lewis has got, of 2 people in the whole of the history of sport, he's got 7 world championships to his name, equaling Michael Schumacher's beautiful legacy that he has left on the sport. Going into drama, 2021 will go down in infamy for a very, very controversial season. Also one of the greatest seasons in modern history of the sport.
But
and brought a lot of fans.
2025 could challenge
25,
it.
yeah, it could challenge it, 100%. Lewis and Max were going at it for the whole of that season. They had many clashes. Monza, they landed on top of each other. Silverstone, Max crashed out, and many people, Max fans, Lewis fans, everything in between. There was controversy at nearly every single race. And then it all boiled down to a last race showdown in Abu Dhabi. And, how do I say this diplomatically?
They went into it on equal points. So it really was like the rest of the season basically didn't matter anymore. It was all down to this one final race. And it wasn't done in the most fair way.
I think we should refer to notes for this one because I know that this topic does cause controversy.
Yeah.
I will read what I wrote in preparation. In the last race of the season 2021, Lewis Hamilton was cruising to victory and a record-breaking 8th title. The race director made a highly unusual call, only letting some cars unlap themselves, putting Verstappen right behind Hamilton for a last lap shootout. Verstappen, on fresh tyres, easily overtook Hamilton on worn tyres, winning the race and the championship. Many felt the decision was unfair and cost Hamilton the title, and still sparks debate to this day. I think that's all we say on the matter.
Yeah.
Now, for context for our listeners, our one listener, hi Mom.
So me and Nav just don't have mums. Okay, great.
So I did attempt to watch F1 with the both of you for the past 2 seasons, and I didn't watch all of them, but I tried to get into it, and I knew that Lewis Hamilton is a big name and he has a legacy, but he wasn't really on that level for the past 2 seasons in 2024 and 2023. But I know that he's now moving to Ferrari. Do you think that he is going to have like a different approach for this new season?
So since he's put on his red suit and there have been some sort of pre-season testing days that they have had in Italy, he has said in interviews that he is basically feeling rejuvenated and he feels like the world is going to get like a new version of him. And also from some of the test drives that they have done, he's like putting down speeds faster than Leclerc. He's driving faster than Leclerc in the same bit of kit. I think 2021 obviously had quite a deep emotional impact and toll on him, and I think the subsequent years, he kind of felt wronged by the sport, but also there were new technical regulations. Mercedes just didn't get the car right, and it kind of was like, you know, if someone kind of screws you over and you want to come out of it bigger and better and stronger, the car that Mercedes gave him just made him look really sad and pathetic.
Do you think that was on purpose?
No, I don't think that was on purpose at all. I think they just didn't understand the regulations, but he had gone from challenging right up until the last race to barely getting any points, and I think that just had a really bad impact on his motivation to be competing in the sport. But I think a new challenge, a fresh start in Ferrari, is exactly what he needs to basically get the pep in his step again.
So it might be the comeback of Lewis Hamilton then?
Oh, yeah.
Do I think that he's in the heat of his prime? No, he is a 40-year-old man. Yes, people like Fernando Alonso are proving that athletes have a much longer life in their career than we ever thought possible. Do I think that even with Lewis Hamilton at 80%, he can still win a championship? Hell yeah, that's why he is Sir Lewis Hamilton. I think that he feels that he's trying to get his 8th title and he can leave the history books written and he can finally lay down the pen and say, I am the greatest that there ever was. The only downside to that is that he hasn't got that much time. He's battling against time. So he needs to make sure that Ferrari bring out an absolute banger of a car. And he also needs to make sure that he can keep his head on. But there might be someone, maybe in a garage along, that's also in red, that we should talk about next, that might be trying to stop him do that. So hit him with it.
Lewis's teammate, Charles Leclerc. He is 27 years old.
He's beautiful. There you go. I said
he
it.
is. No, he is.
I have seen him. He is a gorgeous man.
He is stunning. Yeah. He looks like the kind of boy that you wouldn't actually mind introducing to your parents.
Oh, God. Yeah. He's marriage material.
Like, he'd buy your mum flowers every single time.
He'd always remember your birthday.
Yeah.
And the accent.
Yeah. He debuted in Formula One in 2018 with Alfa Romeo, which is Ferrari's sister team. And he moved to Ferrari after 1 year. So 2019, he was driving for Ferrari. So he's been in Ferrari for 6 years now. So yes, Lewis is a big name, but Ferrari have really invested in Charles Leclerc. I don't know that it is going to be this easy thing of, we have a championship winning car, let's just give it to Lewis. I think they have some loyalty to Leclerc that they need to pay him.
Can I ask a question?
Always.
So you're saying he's been in Ferrari for 6 years, and that seems like, oh, it's a lot. Is that not common for drivers in F1 for them to stay in their teams for a long time? Like, what's the kind of average period that they're in their teams before they move over to another one?
It's become a lot more common now in the last few years. Before, you used to see, you know, drivers signing for like 1 or 2 year contracts, but the likes of Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, they have all signed like big multi-year contracts. Like, I think some of them have signed contracts that were like 6 years.
Yeah.
And they all have like terms where it's like, if you're not performing well enough, then sure, the team can drop you.
And vice versa. The teams can also, the drivers can drop the teams if they are, you know, it's quite hard to quantify performance-based clause, but they do have them in there so that if the team goes from winning championships to them being 5th or lower, then the driver can say, I'd like to trigger this, I'd like to leave. But I also think that people like Max Verstappen, who I'm sure we'll touch on later, and people like Lewis Hamilton came into the sport and they weren't sinking, they were swimming. And I think it's put more faith in younger talent across the sport. And I think teams are investing in younger talent because they recognise, okay, if we stick with this person, they're going to be able to learn how to be able to continue to grow with the team. They'll be able to help develop with the car. And as a result, they'll become a leader of that team. And Charles Leclerc is a brilliant, I mean, we haven't mentioned it, he's a fantastic qualifier. His 1 lap pace is second to none. He has been known to over push.
Yeah.
He's pushed the car into a wall. I don't know how to say it nicely.
Several times while screaming.
He's had ups and downs with Ferrari. Their strategy calls can sometimes be confusing, strange, not really sure what you're doing. However, there is a man called Fred Vasseur. He is the team principal of the team at Ferrari, and he has worked with Charles in his lower team, the sister team of Ferrari in Alfa Romeo. So they have worked together for many, many years. And Lewis Hamilton has also worked with Fred Vasseur in the lower formulas. So both of them have a very strong connection to Fred. And under Fred's leadership, I feel we're seeing a team that has always been stuck in sort of a phase of transition, starting to make a lot of, as the kids would say, like money moves. I think that Charles is where they see Ferrari's future heading. But I think that Lewis Hamilton is Lewis Hamilton. There's no team that wouldn't say yes to Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, I think for a while Ferrari have kind of relied on the legacy title of being Ferrari. And I think now with Fred at the helm of the team, we are going to see like a very rejuvenated team with two great drivers. Shall I give you some more facts about Leclerc?
Yes, do it. Give him his flowers, girl.
So, like I said, he moved to Ferrari in 2019. He has had 8 wins and 43 podiums. And when he was just 21 and 320 days old, Leclerc became the 3rd youngest Formula One Grand Prix winner, as well as the first monegasque.
What's a monegasque?
From Monaco.
Okay.
The way you said that didn't make any sense. He became the first monegasque. What, in history? He's the first resident of that country.
Win a Formula One race.
I was thinking, like, that was not a true fact.
He got his maiden win.
His first one.
Yeah. He got that at Spa 2019, followed by Ferrari's home race in Monza a week later. So that was a good 2 weeks for him.
Are we ready to deep dive into Red Bull racing?
Go for it.
Okay. There is a man called Max Verstappen.
I've heard of it.
Max Verstappen. Da, 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 da. That's a song the fans sing.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. 27 years old. Soon to be a father, actually.
Yeah.
To his long-term partner. He joined F1 in 2015 with then-named Toro Rosso, but for this year it's going to be called Racing Bulls.
Racing Bulls, after last year being called Visa Cash App Racing Bulls.
V-Carbs. Before that, we've had Alpha Tauri. Before that, we've had Toro Rosso. Quite a few names, which is why I sort of looked to Nav to ask him what is the name this year. So he was the youngest driver to join F1 at 17 years and 166 days old. Which is how no one has ever said their age ever.
I love that you're giving all the context for the drivers, including how many days they're old.
Yes, and I expect you to remember. He's known for his aggressive driving style, his exceptional racecraft, and being the youngest F1 winner ever. And after a strong start to 2016 in the junior team, he was promoted straight up to Red Bull, which is one of the big seats. That's what one of the top teams in the sport, pinnacle of motorsport. That's where you want to be, because that's where you can start getting wins and championships and being soaked in champagne every Sunday. Max Verstappen, even though he was very young, people were worrying maybe he won't be able to compete in this very high-pressured situation. But Max Verstappen, in his first drive with the Red Bull team, won. So there you go. That's all you need to know about Max Verstappen. That's how he races.
What do you mean by aggressive driving?
Max is a formidable competitor. Max doesn't always give a shit. He wants to win. That's why he's won so much.
If there is a space on the track, he will fill it.
Yeah.
If there is not a space on the track, he will fill it.
And he will crash into people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know when he joined the sport, he had, incredible overtaking, very late braking, just a racing IQ that you can't learn, you just have. And his driving control was, and still is, one of the best on the grid. However, he was dubbed Crash Stappen by a few journalists, and that has stuck. So he's a polarising character on the grid. He has legions of fans and people adore him, and rightfully so, because he has a lot of talent. He has raw speed. His pace is crazy. But other people on the other side of that fence think that he can be aggressive, and he makes unnecessary aggressive moves on other drivers and kind of bullies them off the track.
People kind of say that he is driving with like razor blades on his elbows, and he's always got his elbows out, and he's like, ready to cut you up if you try and get past him.
I've definitely been caught saying he's a Red Bull in a China shop.
Yeah.
So, like I said before, I have seen the past 2 seasons with the both of you. Most of the races, not all of them.
So you know the Dutch national anthem quite well then.
Not really, not at all. But, I would go on Twitter after the races and I would see even Max Verstappen fans getting bored at the fact that he just kept winning over and over and over again. And it would be like, it wasn't like he was being challenged for most of the races. He was just, a minute ahead and the rest were in the back, and it was just a smooth race for him. Do you think that in the new season he's going to be a bit more challenged?
Oh, for sure. Because we started seeing towards the end of 2024 the likes of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc challenging him. And part of the reason why they were able to win the Constructors' Championship rather than Red Bull, because towards the later half of the season, they were much more competitive. And, the car that you have at the start of the season isn't the car that you're going to end with. You're going to continue to develop it as the year goes on. So I think, yes, we are going to see more competition in this season. And I don't even think Max enjoyed the fact that he was winning so much. You know, he would constantly be making, you know, comments on the radio saying, like, where is everyone else? I should have brought my pillow into my seat with me. Oh, should we do pit stop practices? He would even say that he was bored of racing and he was finding it really boring because he was basically just going for a Sunday drive and no one else was around him. That's not fun. If you are a racer and you have that competitive spirit in you and you're not actually competing against anyone because they're so far behind you, you're not going to find that satisfying. You're not going to find it, like, fun.
If he ends up having people that he could be challenged by for the new season, that's going to make it a lot more interesting.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Red Bull were able to nail the aerodynamic regulations that were brought in for 2022. He had, obviously, the controversial win in 2021, which I think, whether you agree with him winning or not, he did win on the night and he did win his first championship. But I think that the controversy and drama that surrounded that meant that it sort of tarnished the legitimacy of his win. But 2022 came in, we had new regulations, as the FIA does bring in to make sure that it stays competitive. And Red Bull nailed it. They completely nailed it. It was a type of engineering and aerodynamics called the ground effect cars, which they'd use in the late 70s and early 80s. And Adrian Newey, who is he's been dubbed as the man that can see air. He's so brilliant with his aerodynamics. And he designed a car that was, well, stunning, wasn't it, really? It was absolutely just head and shoulders above the rest, just nailed it. And the car was just like sliced through the air like butter. 2022 dominated. And, you know, fair fucks, they dominated. 2023, however, I think that was when fans started to become a bit bored of it because the regulations were there to be able to have closer wheel to wheel. It meant to be able that the aerodynamics means that you could get closer up behind someone without the turbulent air messing up being able to follow closely. And I think Max ended up winning 19 races out of 22. So it was just a dominance like we haven't seen since Mercedes and Lewis, to be honest.
So moving on to Max's teammate, Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson is...
He's a Kiwi.
He is a Kiwi. Not the fruit. He's from New Zealand. Because you thought all of the other drivers were really young, guess what? He's 23 years old.
23?
Yeah.
A baby.
He is taking what in the sport is known as the poison chalice.
What does that mean?
Okay, people listening to this can't see the lost look on your face.
So the seat that accompanies Max at Red Bull is known as the poison chalice. It's a cursed seat because if you have Max Verstappen as your teammate, basically everything you do is going to look a bit rubbish. And Max has had a lot of teammates and they have all come in bright-eyed, bushy-tailed and left a shell of a human being, basically.
That's one way to put it.
It's the truth.
So is he new?
So, kind of. This is his first full season in Formula One. So he debuted back in 2023 with AlphaTauri, which this year is Racing Bulls, which last year was Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, and before it was AlphaTauri, it was Toro Rosso. So he debuted for them in 2023 when Daniel Ricciardo broke his hand in a practice crash at the 2023 Dutch Grand Prix. Fun fact for you, when you are going to crash, you can't drive, and you definitely don't drive an F1 car, but if you did and you were about to crash, you're supposed to let go of the steering wheel, because if you don't, it will jolt, and as Daniel Ricciardo learnt the hard way, break your hand.
Oh, well, good to know, even though I'm never going to use that information ever.
It's still just good to know, isn't it? So he replaced Ricciardo for the final 6 races of 2023, and then for 2024, due to poor performance, he also replaced Ricciardo. So, you know, he's quite good at jumping into Ricciardo's grave. And this year he has been promoted to Red Bull for Max's teammate, replacing Sergio Perez, again, due to poor performance. And again, the drama. 2024, we didn't know where he was going to be. We didn't know if Perez was coming or going. There was a lot of speculation. Everyone basically felt it in their hearts that Perez's time at Red Bull was over, but Red Bull didn't actually confirm it until the season was over.
Yeah, it was quite late. I think everybody they were expecting it to be called and for Liam Lawson or whoever they were. There was still a lot of speculation, but they left it incredibly late, and I think it's triggered that. So there's no seats left for Sergio Perez. So I think he's taking some time away from the sport. He might be retiring, but he might come back.
Is he an older driver as well? Sergio Perez?
He's an experienced racer. He's been in the sport for many, many years and has delivered some great performances. But I think his time at Red Bull marked. I think he put a lot into it, but I think it was the right time for him to go. I think fans and journalists and everyone involved in the sport was expecting him to have been dropped a lot sooner.
But also imagine, every race weekend you go and you do interviews with the press, and basically everyone is asking you the question of like, are you actually going to stay? Do you think they're going to keep you? Like, it's just embarrassing. So I think everyone kind of knew he was going to go. It hadn't actually been confirmed, but written in the stars.
That must not have been great for his ego.
No. What also wasn't great for his ego is that Liam Lawson, in the sister car to Red Bull, basically wanted to make a name for himself and, stand up with his arms waving in the air saying, Red Bull, look at me, I'm better than your driver. So at the Mexican Grand Prix in 2024, which was Perez's home race, they made contact, Lawson and Perez, and it actually caused Lawson to flip the bird at Perez while passing him on track a few laps later.
Oh.
And yeah.
This just did. Reem's not impressed.
That's like team spirit.
They weren't on a team. He wanted his seat.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not the spirit. You can't not have entered the race officially and already start exhibiting that sort of behavior.
People aren't really gonna race officially. He didn't drive in a Fiat Punto. What about?
No, I mean, like he didn't become. He was just like a sub.
Yeah, pretty.
So
much.
he didn't. What?
I just love the passion of this information you learned 36 seconds ago.
But I mean, he was just a sub, so it's not until this new season that he's entering as officially part of one of the teams.
Yeah.
But you're already kind of entering with this reputation of you're way too competitive that you're going to be flipping off a teammate.
Yeah.
Or, a competitor, whatever.
But I think he wanted to show that he had the exact same, like, gusto and aggression that Max had, and he would be perfect sat beside him. Ultimately, Max didn't want Perez to leave because Perez's poor performance made Max's good performance look even better than good. But yeah, he's been replaced. And
so do you think Max is going to feel threatened?
I don't think so, but I think Lawson has a job on his hand for this year to basically try and say, like, you made the right call. I am not like any of the drivers that you have put next to Max, and I will prove to you that I am actually worth this seat, and I'm not going to let the pressure get to me.
I do think as well, though, Alex Albon did a really interesting interview on a different podcast, which I'm not going to shout out because they're not paying me. But he sort of spoke about what it was like being Max's teammate. And he said he sort of likened that Max's driving style is very twitchy. He likes his car with a lot of front end, which means that he likes it when it turns. And as you go through the season, then Max dials it in and says to his engineers and, everybody at the factories, I want it more like this. So the car then becomes even more sharp to drive, so sharp that it could make your eyes water, and almost that it makes you tense to drive it because it's like the car is just twitching all over the place. And that's that's Max's sweet spot. That's how he's able to really lock in his sort of aggressive style of driving. For Liam Lawson, I don't know if that's how he likes his car set up, but he's going to be entering a team with a car that will be set up more for Max because he's been developing that car for many seasons and he's been so successful. Why would the team not decide to take his input on it? They want him to make sure that he's happy and comfortable in the car. So Liam's got that to take on. He's also got a large amount of speculation. People will be looking at him left and right, making sure that he is measuring up to Max. But in that Red Bull seat, it is a difficult place to sit. So we'll have to see for 2025 how Liam gets on. I wish him the best of luck.
He has the aggression, that's for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
So judgy.
Sassy.
Right, are you still with us? Are you still absorbing information?
Yes, but don't ask me about anything.
Okay, wonderful. Are you ready to... Are you ready to move on to a new team?
Yes.
Mercedes. So the number one driver this year for Mercedes is George Russell. And he is 27 years old and debuted in F1 in 2019 with Williams. He joined Mercedes in 2022 and in his time in Formula One has had 3 Grand Prix wins and 15 podiums.
He's a beautiful man.
Really?
I think so.
Are you looking at the right picture?
Yeah, I think he has he has that model look. I think, when, like, models are kind of, like, ugly
He's,
hot.
like, known for looking like... oh.
I think he looks like someone made a ventriloquist doll of Woody from Toy Story.
I was going to say, people do
He
liken
does
him
look like
to people do liken him to Woody from Toy Story.
So he had his maiden win in Interlagos in 2022. In 2022, he finished 4th in the Drivers' Championship, outscoring Lewis Hamilton by 35 points. Then in 2023, he finished 8th, the lowest ranking for a Mercedes driver since 2012. And that year finished 59 points behind Hamilton. So, again, Mercedes cars haven't been what they used to be for the last few years, so we don't really have that good of a gauge of how strong he is as a Mercedes driver. I think this year, with the pack being as close as it is going to get under these regulations, is going to be the best showing that we're going to see from him.
Now, with Lewis having his legacy behind him and being on the same team with Russell and now leaving, do you think Russell is going to come into the new season with a bit more of an ego?
I mean, listen, I think that, first off, I agree that Mercedes haven't had the best performance. They haven't been showing the same level of dominance they have in previous years. The regulations that came in, they just weren't able to nail as well as best as other teams. However, I still think that we've seen George Russell is 100% going to continue to bring excitement and a level of performance that will excite fans, because even though he hasn't had a car that's been able to consistently win points, be able to fight for championships right at the front step, when there's been the opportunity and the car's been performing, my God, does that boy like to go for it. So I don't think that he'll have an ego because of 2025. I think that coming into 2022 with these new regulations, I felt Lewis was there in body, but his heart and his soul wasn't quite there. George had this exciting new promise. This was the fastest F1 car he'd ever driven. Before that, he was in Williams, which, although has a wonderful history and a great legacy in the sport, of recent times has not been that competitive. So for him, he was able to just go in there and just go for it, and he did.
Yeah.
So I think that he was able to outperform Lewis on a number of occasions. And last season, as much as Lewis is known as a great qualifier, last season Lewis was nowhere when it came to qualifying. I mean, openly saying, I'm just not fast anymore. Whilst George was able to nail that consistently. So I think that if you're using Lewis as a gauge of your own performance and you are comfortably able to outperform him, you're always going to get an ego. So I think that coming into 2025, he's switching into a leadership role, which he hasn't had to do as much. And now Mercedes are backing him as their main horse, because, as we'll get onto in a minute, he's going to have a junior rookie debuting in Formula One. So Toto Wolff, the team principal of Mercedes, will be playfully but so seriously saying to him, you need to fucking perform or I'm going to look like a right knob. He needs to really bring it. Otherwise, Mercedes could be fighting one-handed with a junior driver that's trying to get up to speed. They need to be looking to George to being that leader of that team. So he will have an ego, but in certain respects, he sort of needs one.
Yeah. And who is that junior driver?
Oh, before we get on to that, Reem, I just know you love drama.
Of course I do.
Would you like to hear some George Russell drama?
Of course I do.
Because I have plenty. So, even though he joined Mercedes in 2022, he actually first raced for Mercedes in 2020 because Lewis got COVID and had to miss out on a race. And George Russell was Mercedes's reserve driver despite being a driver for Williams. So Williams kindly let him go off to Mercedes for a race and got their own reserve driver in to replace him. And he was doing very, very well. He missed out on pole position by just 2/100ths of a second.
Damn.
It took you more than 2/100ths of a second to read that out.
Yeah. I was trying to work out where the decimal point was. It was crazy.
The point was real.
And even though he missed out on pole, he outraced his teammate Valtteri Bottas, and he led most of that race. And it wasn't until towards the end of the race where they had to do a pit stop that win slipped away from him, because Mercedes decided to double stack their cars in the pit stop, which means that they make both of them pit at the same time. But in doing so, they mixed up the tyres and they gave Russell, if my memory serves me correctly, they gave Russell some of Bottas's tyres.
Yeah, it was like a mixed set of tyres that he had on his car, and I think you're right. I think it was
which is
partly
illegal.
Bottas's.
They're not allowed to do that. So he then had to come in a lap later and change his tyres over again, which ultimately means that he missed out on a win.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah. And there was a bit of speculation that maybe Mercedes did it deliberately because they couldn't have a reserve driver who was currently racing for Williams out racing Valtteri Bottas, who was actually their driver.
Yeah, and that's allegedly. I definitely didn't think that at the time.
No, we definitely didn't think that.
Conspiracy theorists of the F1 world.
Yeah.
Be shook, because that's not true. We don't believe that.
No.
No, absolutely not.
No.
It has legs.
Yeah.
As a theory.
That's not the only drama involving Russell and Bottas, though. There was more the following year, in 2021.
F1 drivers are dramatic.
They really are, honestly. So the media speculated that George Russell would be replacing Valtteri Bottas in 2022. And as we know, he did.
He pulled a bit of a Liam Lawson. Maybe Liam Lawson was taking notes from George's homework on this one, to be honest.
So the two of them, George and Bottas, actually came together at a race when Russell attempted to overtake Bottas, but drove onto a wet patch and lost control of his car, ultimately crashing into Bottas and causing both of them to drop out of the race because of the amount of damage that it caused. And Russell initially blamed the incident on Bottas, walking over to his car after the crash and slapping his helmet.
Slapping his helmet?
Yep. And I know you're not going to like this, but Bottas responded with a middle finger.
Oh no, those drivers need manners.
Now, I think that's all we need to say on the matter.
Now, Bottas did accuse Russell of trying to kill them both. However, Russell did later retract, the fact that he thought Bottas caused the incident and apologised to both Bottas and Williams.
Did he just watch the footage back?
Probably.
I understand the sort of determination that George showed. He was trying to overtake the current Mercedes driver in the hopes that it would sort of wave a big warning sign like, hey, I'm hot shit over here, please sign me. But, I mean, causing the car to crash out is a lot of money for a team to have to rebuild a whole car.
Oh, yeah.
And ultimately lost the team a lot of points that day. So I'm sure on the way home it was most likely on the naughty step of the plane home.
Yeah.
However, I think the performance of him in the Mercedes car definitely stayed stuck in most fans and all of the team bosses' minds, because it showed that George, when given a chance to really shine in a competitive car, he grabbed the opportunity by the horns and frickin' went for it. So when there was lots of speculation about him replacing Bottas, it felt like a foregone conclusion that he was the right person to take over that seat.
Now, I bet you think I'm done.
I thought you were done. I'm sorry, I did a poetic sort of ending to that part of it. We've got more?
Oh, tell me all the drama.
In 2024, he got into some drama with Max Verstappen. So this happened when Russell qualified on pole position in Qatar after Max was handed a grid penalty for driving unnecessarily slowly ahead of Russell, who was on an outlap, meaning he was, trying to get ready to do his qualifying lap. After qualifying, Russell and Verstappen went to go and see, the people giving out all the penalties, and Russell said, oh, he was driving dangerously slowly in front of me. And Max said, no, that's not the case at all.
I mean, it is similar to, you and another kid in the school playground have got into a tussle, and then you've got brought up to the headmaster's office, and both your teachers are there, and they're both talking on your behalf, and you're both sort of pulling faces at each other, and then you decide to start calling the other one a poo-poo head or whatever. That's basically what the stewards room becomes, and they both bring evidence, but Max was not impressed with how George entered into that confrontation, and it's still brewing, that tension.
Yeah. So Max said that he lost all respect for Russell and warned him that he would overtake him at any cost. Russell then claimed that Max said that he would put him in the wall, which Verstappen denied. Verstappen did overtake Russell on turn 1 of the race, with Russell finishing 4th after 2 safety cars. And the drivers all have a big dinner at the end of the season to basically just, say goodbye to any drivers that are leaving and just to celebrate the year being over, basically.
To say sorry for all the middle fingers.
Well, yes. But there was no apology from either Max or Russell. So Russell was the last one to enter the dinner room. And
the dinner room?
Well, they're bougie drivers. They don't just go to a restaurant. They go to a restaurant that has a private dining room.
Granted, they weren't at like a Nando's.
No.
So that makes sense.
So Russell was the last one to arrive, and all of the other drivers had conveniently left the seat next to Max empty, so that there was only one seat available to George to sit in. So then when George does enter the room, Max said to him, "Here, mate, we've saved you a seat." And George, rather than sitting in that seat, picked it up, walked it to the other end of the table, and sat with Lewis.
Oh my god, it's like an episode of Maths.
Yeah.
Literally. For viewers that don't know what the hell that is, that's Married at First Sight.
Yeah.
Australia is our preferred version of it,
Yeah.
in case you wanted to know.
But I am now done with Russell drama. Right, take it away with George Russell's rookie teammate.
Okay, we've got Kimi Antonelli filling some very big shoes of Lewis Hamilton at that seat that Lewis filled for over 10 years. I've written here, Kimi Antonelli is 18 years young, because that's what he is. He's very young. He's debuting with Mercedes. He was scouted by Mercedes during his karting career and made his racing debut at just 15 years old and went on to win a lot of different titles. He then was competing in junior formulas. The next logical move would have been to go to F3 because there are lower formulas, F3, F2, F1. But Mercedes already knew they had a star on their hands and decided to promote him straight over to F2. So effectively skipping a step on the ladder. It was then announced, after Lewis had said that he would be leaving and hanging up his black shell suit to trade it in for a rather snazzy Italian red shell suit, at the Italian Grand Prix, ironic,
Shady.
he would be replacing Lewis Hamilton that weekend. Now, the unfortunate part of this story is that Kimi was going to be going off in one of the free practice sessions, which is they have 3 different free practice sessions across a typical race weekend where drivers are able to go out on the track, they're able to just get a feel for the track, they're able to get valuable data for the engineers back at their factories to start looking at how the tyres perform, how the car performs, any things they need to change in terms of their rear wings, front wings, drivability, all different bits and bobs. And they decided that as Kimi was going to be stepping into this glorious seat and wonderful opportunity, they said, okay, fine, George, give Kimi, your new best friend, a chance in your rather snazzy black Silver Arrows car. George said, yeah, sure, why not? I mean, I have no choice but to say yes. So off Kimi went, and everyone was very excited to see, oh my God, Kimi Antonelli is going to be driving around the streets of Italy here. And 10 minutes in, he crashed the car straight to a wall.
That's not a good first impression.
No.
Really? So, I mean, Kimi's also Italian, and being at the Italian Grand Prix, knowing that Lewis will be going to Italy, it felt sort of kismet and very funny. But not to do him down, because I think Mercedes are looking at him as, again, similarly to how they saw George, as the future of their team and a future world championship that they're going to guide through this process of him debuting in Formula One, and will hopefully be able to get up to speed quick so that they aren't fighting one-handed. What I mean by that is that George Russell is a seasoned veteran by this point, has been in the seasons of Formula One for quite a few years. Kimi is taking the reins and having a go at starting up, understanding what it is to be in Formula One, the resounding amount of pressure, media, spotlight, speculation. However, when it came to a little bit of tea, I mean, he's not really been in the scene long enough to have loads of tea, but a little half a cup. There was talk around Lewis's contract negotiations with Mercedes, and there was speculation that Toto Wolff and the team might have been considering their long-term future in terms of the driver market. So not just looking at Lewis Hamilton, who in their eyes is coming to the end of his career, and maybe will only be in the sport 2 or 3 years. Some suggested that maybe they were giving Lewis a shorter contract that could potentially open up a seat for Antonelli down the line. It's well known that they wanted to get Max Verstappen, but there's no seats available at Mercedes to be able to give Max a junior drive or one of their top tier seats. So they lost him to Red Bull. And I think that maybe they didn't want that happen, having a repeat of that. So they've decided, okay, maybe we'll give Lewis a shorter contract and we'll see if Antonelli is ready. But Lewis obviously decided to pack up and head off to, I was going to do an Italian accent, but I won't.
Ferrari.
Okay, and that's why I didn't want to do the accent. He's packing up to Italy, so we can now give this young boy a seat. And that is exactly what's happening. So he's got some big shoes to fill.
I mean, him crashing, I guess it's just nerves then.
Yeah.
Because for him to be making it to F1 at the age of 18, he must have skill.
Yes, I mean, if you think about it, I think Martin Brundle said it once, who's a pundit for Sky Sports F1. He described driving a Formula One car is like lying in a bathtub looking through only a letterbox to see through, going 200 miles per hour.
Oh, that's not terrifying at all.
Yeah. Exactly. So the sheer amount of speed and feedback you get from a car like that, it's a lot of power compared to the lower formulas that are slower and He's still getting his head round it, and that would have been the first opportunity he would have had to have been in a Formula One car. No one's a master at driving a Formula One car the first time. It's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
However, did it make people think, fucking shit choice? Why have you done that then?
Yes.
Yes.
Us included.
Allegedly. Yeah, I think he's a future star. As you say, they've obviously seen promise in Kimi Antonelli, and time will tell. There is going to be a level of pressure. How much, he's only 18, he's only just passed his driving test, actually. Yeah. Can he get up to speed quick? Can he ensure that he's a regular point scorer? And can he make sure that he's making a positive contribution to their constructor title hopes? They need to, because they haven't been at the same level that they've wanted to be and have been with the likes of Lewis and Nico Rosberg and Valtteri Bottas have been able to do. So, Kimi Antonelli, at 18 years young, you have a lot of stress on your head and a lot of stress on your chest. So good luck. But he's getting paid quite a lot, so I mean, I take the stress. Take the stress. I've had more stress or less pay.
I mean, and he's only 18. If he messes this up, he still has his entire life ahead.
Okay, moving on to the next team, Aston Martin.
I'm excited. I'm excited about Aston Martin, full stop. Arguably one of the sexiest cars on the grid.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful green emerald sort of glistening mother. It just looks cool. Plus, Aston Martin is to do with 007. 007 is cool. On top of that...
James Bond, Reem, why do you look so confused?
No, I don't want to do this. What? No.
She was looking at me like a lost child.
Reem, come on.
I thought you were saying more F1 terms.
Okay, great. 007, it's F1, man. Okay, the car looks beautiful. The brand is cool. It's associated with James Bond 007. Shaken, not stirred. I'll stop before you look confused again. On top of that, they've got a lot of investment and they are making money moves. And they've got a new wind tunnel and they've also got the greatest designer in the history of the sport, Adrian Newey, joining them. Yeah. So although he won't be able to work on the car this year, I think in the next few years, potentially by 2026, 2027, this team could be moving up the ranks to glory. And I'm excited to see how this season and the next few seasons are going to be able to get them on that path to being able to win championships. So I'm excited.
And who are their drivers for this?
That's a good point. I've completely just rambled. We've got Fernando Alonso, reigning from Spain. He is 43 years old. He is the oldest man on the grid.
How many days?
Oh, no.
Abort. Days old. He debuted in F1 in 2001. I was going to say how old I was when he debuted, but I don't want to. Okay, he's known as being big-brained. He's got a big race IQ. His spatial awareness when he's in the car...
People tend to say that he has this weird ability to make an F1 car the width of a bus.
Yes. Now, that doesn't mean... I don't know what you think that means, but it's not...
It's nothing to me.
Okay. And you know what? We believe you. What it means is that he is such a brilliant defensive driver that he is able to make it so difficult to pass him that it's like he has a car that is the width of a bus. And I feel like maybe I need to keep explaining. So a bus is... You got it?
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, she got it. Okay, cool. So to summarise, he big-brained, he's got eyes, he's the width of Oh god, that's the only thing she's taken in. He's the width of a bus.
I shouldn't have said it, I'm sorry.
He's got a brilliant racecraft. He's got a brilliant ability to be able to extract the maximum performance out of any car that he drives. And he's got great strategic thinking. One of the tells for a future world champion and someone that is going to be a real great in the sport is that they're able to pump in the most amazing level of performance during a race, and they've got a percentage left over to be able to look at the wider scope of the race, because they're just driving along the road. But people like Fernando Alonso, I'd argue Lewis Hamilton has this to a degree, Max has this at a much larger degree, so does Carlos Sainz. They're able to read the race even though they have no context. It's very difficult for them to be able to see if a car ahead is someone they're lapping or passing and whatever else. But Fernando Alonso is always able to extract the best out of the regulations, the rules, and his car. He's also a two-time world champion. He won in 2005 and 2006. I've given you the race F1 side of him. Would you like to know about his love life?
Sure.
Okay. Well, in 2023, there was a strange period of time where, for whatever reason...
You can't even say this one seriously.
He also just said, there was a story.
It's a dramatic effect, and I'm going to keep doing it. Okay.
Reem, you're actually not prepared mentally for what is coming up.
There was a period of time in 2023 where rumours were flying around that Fernando Alonso was romantically linked to Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift?
Dropped my phone, I was so shook. I've written in my notes, this shows how driver gossip can spread quickly, even without any real basis. I don't know why I wrote it like that. Okay, so here is the actual lack of genuine evidence we have for this, but I'm going to read it out as though it's fact.
But to be clear to any legal teams listening, this is all speculation, all conspiracy. We are not actually claiming any of this as fact.
Yeah, Helen from legal, you listening? She nodded.
But tell us the facts.
Okay, as Nav just said, this is all fact.
Except the parts that are made up.
They both ended romantic relationships. Need I say more? Damning. Alonso made a few playful posts on social media that some interpreted as hinting to a connection with Taylor Swift. He posted a photo saying feeling 33 with a smiley face. Do I have to keep going, girls? And a TikTok of him playing the song Karma by Taylor Swift, and then gave the camera a playful wink.
Are we sure he's not just a big Taylor Swift fan?
Hey, please don't ruin the dream.
They're obviously in love.
Yeah, obviously, it's fact.
Mm-hmm.
And celebrity gossip sites, who always tell the truth, picked up the rumours, which sent fans to a media frenzy. There's been no actual evidence of them meeting, dating. I don't actually know if they've even met before.
I don't think they've ever been in the same room as each other before.
I think he's just a Swiftie.
Probably. I think Aston Martin's social media manager was just having a bit of fun listening to T Swizzle.
No, I choose to believe in love, you naysayers. I think that they're going to have beautiful children together that will be able to race cars and listen to Karma all in one.
Isn't she dating someone who's...
Stop ruining the dream. Taylor Alonso.
She's dating some like basketball player.
Taylonzo? Grow up.
Right. Moving on from that weird end note for Alonso.
I kind of loved where this was heading.
Pause for a second. The next driver, Reem will kind of know, because when we all go for a walk, you say, shall we go for?
A lance.
Yes. Shall we go for a lance? And that's because in F1 there's a driver called Lance Stroll. I recently found out that his surname is Strolovic.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you've been saying makes no sense.
Yeah.
Let's go for Strolovic.
Now, Lance Stroll is 26 years old, and this is going to be a quick one, I'm not going to lie.
You just gave up on the days, huh?
No.
So ridiculous.
This one's going to be a quick one, because all there is to really say is he's F1's Nepo baby.
Oh.
So he debuted in Williams in 2017, and reportedly his father, Lawrence Stroll, paid $80 million to Williams prior to Lance's Formula One debut.
80 million?
Again, it is just speculation, but...
Except for the parts that are true.
Yeah. He has had 3 podium finishes in his F1 career, all third place.
There was literally no need for you to do him like that. We haven't done that for any other driver.
I'm just giving facts.
Okay.
In 2019, he joined Racing Point after the team was bought by a consortium of investors led by his father, and it was then rebranded to Aston Martin. That's all there is. Basically, Lance wants, daddy gets.
Is he actually good?
He has won championships in lower formulas. I think that he does have... He is a regular point scorer.
And he's also a regular crasher.
Okay. See, what you have is the angel and the devil right now.
Balance.
So he's got the pace. He does score points. However, if we were to be incredibly critical of him, he does have a tendency to have a lack of spatial awareness when it comes to on-track collisions and a misjudgment when it comes to trying to overtake people.
Not with walls. He always knows where the wall is.
Oh, we have a Stroll hater here. However, fans do talk about the fact that he is a Nepo baby and that he also has a very big passion for tennis, and occasionally people say, why don't you pursue that?
Yeah.
Which is...
Lawrence can just buy Wimbledon.
Yeah. So You could argue, if you're being really unkind, you could argue that maybe his dad is more passionate about Formula One than his son is, but his son is the one actually racing. However, Aston Martin they have a long-term, multi-year project that they're trying to get to being championship contenders and winners. And there is a talk from fans and people in Formula One that Daddy might have to make a difficult decision and cut his actual blood out of the team to make sure that the team doesn't suck. And that's going to be an awkward Christmas at the Stroll family household, because how do you cut your son from the team and then be like, thank God we got rid of you, performing so much better? But that will play out. However,
Go on.
There was rumours that happened at the start of this year that potentially Max Verstappen might be moving over to Aston Martin. And the reason for that is someone high up in Aston Martin was apparently going around saying to investors, we're getting Max Verstappen. Now, I don't know if he did it in that creepy voice when he said it, but maybe he did. Because of the investment that Aston Martin are getting, they could be hot stuff coming into the new era of Formula One cars for 2026. So, could we see Lance Stroll out in the cold without a blanket or a daddy to help him?
Or will they get rid of Alonso, who is past his prime, and keep the Nepo baby? Only time will tell. But so basically, Stroll's F1 career can be summarised by the classic Disney Channel original movie quote, "No, Dad, it's your dream, not mine."
What? Where is that
You know
from?
what I'm talking about, Reem. Say it in the mic.
That was the most desperate thing I've ever heard.
Yes. Yes, I know. Yes, Nav, I know what you're talking about.
Thank you. Shall we move on to Alpine?
Next up, we've got Pierre Gasly, a Frenchman who's 29 years old, who debuted in 2017 with Team Toro Rosso, that is now named the Racing Bulls for 2025.
After being called the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls in 2024 and Alpha Tauri before that.
Facts, son. He's known for his qualifying pace, his racecraft, and occasional flashes of brilliance. I know that sounds like a drag, but it really isn't. His career's had ups and downs. In 2019, Gasly was promoted to Red Bull Racing to partner Max Verstappen after Daniel Ricciardo left the team. He struggled to adapt to the car, as many of Max's teammates have, and the intense pressure of competing at the highest level got to him. He consistently was outpaced by Verstappen, often by a significant margin. He was under constant scrutiny, both from the team and management and the media, and the weight of expectations combined with the difficulty of matching Verstappen's performance clearly impacted his confidence in driving. So midway through the 2019 season, and Red Bull are no stranger to doing this, because they're rather cutthroat, it must be said, and you have to do that if you want to be staying at the top, but it does make it difficult for the drivers involved.
And awkward.
Red Bull made the decision to demote Gasly back to Toro Rosso, and immediately he rediscovered his form. In 2020, he won his first race in Monza. That was a brilliant win as well. In 2023, he moved to the French team, because he's French. Makes sense. He's coming home. It gave him the opportunity to compete for a manufacturing team with higher ambitions. Again, another team that they're a little bit in the bin at the minute. However, they have made strides much further up the field, and I think that they've got a longer phased plan of trying to get themselves to the front of the sport. In 2025, he'll be taking on more of a leadership role in Alpine as the most experienced driver, and he'll be able to really cement himself as a talented, determined racer. And his newest challenge over the winter season was Sorry, I've been reading all of that and I forgot that we added that in. Okay. His newest challenge over the winter season was a speculated hair transplant. So look out for a new improved hairline from Mr. Gasly.
That's the biggest piece of drama.
Okay.
It makes sense, though. I mean, imagine all of these race weekends basically wearing a balaclava and a helmet. It's going to impact the hair follicles.
It's
and
true.
Fair enough.
Gasly decided to do something about it.
And I mean, they have the money.
Speculation.
Yeah, Helen from Legal, she nodded. Okay. I mean, they'd speculated that Lewis might have got a hair transplant back in the day.
Yeah.
So he's not the first to have done it, but
If he has done it.
allegedly, Helen, yeah, nod. Sorry. So he has got a head. Why have we landed on this being the biggest bit of news? I said a whole devastating comeback story. So yes, he unfortunately fell victim to the poison chalice seat of being Max Verstappen's teammate.
And then the poison chalice scalp.
Yes. the biggest poison challenge of his career, his own hairline.
Yeah.
So we look forward to seeing what Gasly has to offer as the leader of Alpine, but also, I want to see that hairline, baby.
Yeah. And he is going to be leading because joining him at Alpine is Jack Doohan, who is a rookie driver coming in, debuting in F1 for the first time. He is 22 years old, and his first official debut, I guess, for Formula One was in the 2024 season finale, where he drove in the race. So he joined Alpine's driver development program back in 2022 and finished 6th overall for his rookie Formula 2 campaign. The following year, he moved up to 3rd, thanks to 3 race wins. And his experience to date in Formula 1 comes again through Alpine, as he has raced for free practices in 2022, 2023, and 2024. So he knows what it's like to be in an F1 car, but not for a whole year, not for like a whole season of racing.
Lots of newbies this year. Is that common?
No, it's really not. It did feel like there was a bit of stagnation across the grid because we had George Russell signed up for God knows how long, Charles Leclerc locked up in his contract, Max locked up in his contract, Norris locked up in his contract. It felt like no one was really going anywhere.
Yeah.
And coming into 2024, we had the exact same grid that we had for 2023. 2024 was the same. Lewis pulling the trigger and going off to Ferrari targeted this strange thing called silly season, which is where there's a part of the season where contracts are coming up, people are making moves, people are having little side conversations away from prying eyes.
Basically, nobody's safe.
Exactly, nobody is safe. And sort of like musical chairs, you just have to make sure at the end of the silly season that you still have a seat at the end of it. So I think it's exciting to have fresh faces coming into the sport. It means that we're going to have new champion winners in the future, hopefully. And on top of that, it just adds a new excitement for all of these teams. Mm-hmm. So new dynamics.
It makes everything kind of more uncertain as well, because everyone's driving for different teams, but also a bunch of new people are coming into the race. So you don't really know where it's going to be heading.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Now, moving on to Haas.
Esteban Ocon, another Frenchman, 28 years old. He debuted in Formula One in 2016. He's known for being a consistent point scorer, has a strong race pace. He's also known for being quite a tough racer. Although he has a very docile and friendly face, he's kind of can be a bit of a bully on the racetrack. He secured his maiden victory in 2021, which was a testament to his skill and racecraft. His racing style has sometimes been criticised as being overly aggressive or uncompromising. But you know, who hasn't?
Yeah, that's just racing in Formula One, no?
Yeah, and he's totally friendly, although his relationships with his teammates, particularly Sergio Perez in the past, and more recently Pierre Gasly at Alpine, have at times been tense, marked by on-track clashes and constrained communication.
Are any of them friends in F1? It doesn't sound like it.
It is known as the Piranha Club. Piranhas aren't exactly the sort of fish that you put your finger in the tank with, so yes, on the surface, I'm sure that they get on very well, but when it comes to racing, absolutely not.
At the end of the day, you're competing. Friendships go out the window as soon as you realise that, you know, your friends are coming between you and a paycheck.
Fair enough.
Now, in 2024, Gasly and Ocon were able to team up as the two Frenchmen on a French team. That's a fairy tale. Actually, it wasn't. The relationship between Ocon and Gasly had been strained for some time, and while they had very brief moments of collaboration, there was also numerous on-track clashes and a general lack of, beautiful, harmonious teamwork between them. And whilst Ocon had some strong races, generally it was seen that Gasly had the edge in qualifying and race pace across 2024. But the straw that broke the camel's back was in Monaco. Across the streets of Monaco, Charles Leclerc's hometown, it was widely speculated that the Monaco incident between Ocon and Gasly after they made contact was the reason why they decided they didn't want to renew his contract past 2024. They collided whilst they were both in point-scoring positions, and it cost the team valuable points and, more importantly, highlighted the ongoing tension and sometimes destructive dynamic between the two drivers. The team principal was publicly furious and actually blamed Ocon for the collision. And this incident is speculated, again, Helen, thank you, was likely to push things over the edge. But he'll be taking on a new challenge in Haas and will be essentially the lead driver for that team. So we'll see, will he be able to get on with his new teammate, who is
Oliver Bearman. Now, Oliver, he is 19 years old and, again, a rookie. His F1 debut came in Saudi Arabia in 2024, replacing a slightly poorly Carlos Sainz. He was competing in F2 beforehand, and he had a bit of a rough start to his 2024 F2 campaign, but then with Sainz subbing duties calling him in, he was required to drop his F2 commitments, which saw him score 6 points for 7th place in his first Grand Prix. So he did very well, and he obviously impressed, which has managed to get him a position in F1. And then in 2024, he also replaced Magnussen, who was a racer for Haas, because he had to serve a 1-race ban for his aggressive driving.
Oh.
Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, he's a new driver, so there's not much on him.
A lot of them are very young.
Yeah.
My God, they're like 18, 19. They're all children, and only a couple of them are like actually in their 40s or 30s.
Yeah.
It's a young man's game, it is becoming.
Right, moving on again to the Racing Bulls, formerly Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, formerly AlphaTauri, formerly Toro Rosso. Take it away.
It's just so catchy.
It really is.
Yuki Tsunoda. This is a very fun, very colourful character in Yuki Tsunoda. He's 25 years old. He's a Japanese driver. He debuted in 2021 with AlphaTauri. I'm not going to do the same timeline of names because I just can't remember all of them. He's known for his aggressive racing style, which is very...
Common?
Yeah. He's known for his aggressive racing style, which is very common in the Red Bull family. He has raw speed. He's also the shortest F1 driver. And he has a very expressive personality over the team radio, or as the FIA would call it, the governing body of the sport, a colourful language.
Yeah.
He started in karting and moved through the junior formulas and proved his ability at each level that he competed in. He was also part of the Honda Formula Dream project, which supported young Japanese drivers. And this connection, alongside with his impressive performances, brought him to the attention of Red Bull's driver development programme. It must be said, though, that Yuki Tsunoda's colourful personality and his bad temper, he gets very angry and very frustrated in the car, can lead to him making sloppy mistakes and kind of overcooking things. If you say let him cook and he kind of burns it. Fans love his radio messages, although they come through very shouty. They are very funny to hear. Some of them are, "I know, but this brake sucks. Are you trying to crash me out or what? Now it's like paradise, like traffic paradise. What is this one? Yeah, what a salami, honestly." Engineer says, "Push flat out." He says, "Yes, I am. Shut up."
He's just passionate.
Yes, although this passion did lead him to being put on a behavioural programme implemented by Red Bull that was a direct result of Helmut Marko's concerns. Helmut Marko is in charge of the young driver development programme at Red Bull. He had concerns and wanted to help Tsunoda develop into a more consistent and controlled driver.
They have anger management for F1 drivers.
Red Bull have anger management for F1 drivers.
It's crazy.
I don't know if it's particularly clear on what the behavioural programme was. I do know that I think it was speculated there was a psychologist involved, but I don't know how true that is.
And also, in one of his earlier seasons with the team, they thought he was just lazy and didn't want to do any training, so they actually moved him out from his home to where the factory was, hired a personal trainer and all of that stuff who would make him wake up at like 6 a.m. and do workouts. And he was very sulky about it all.
Oh, God. That's not a great impression from him.
He's an athlete and he was complaining about having to work out.
But at the same time, I mean, he does consistently deliver on track. And also, all of us have a percentage of Yuki Tsunoda that lives within us that doesn't want to go to the gym. So
He's the only real one.
It's relatable.
But we're also not millionaire athletes.
That's true.
We're sitting on a sofa right now.
I think the biggest thing about Yuki Tsunoda as well in recent times has been that people felt that he was the natural next choice to be replacing Sergio Perez at the big Red Bull team seat. However, it was given to Liam Lawson, as we've already covered. He's been in the junior programme, he's been in the sister team for many years, and people felt that he had the raw speed and the talent to be able to take on this next challenge, but he wasn't given that opportunity. So this year, if I was Yuki Tsunoda, which I am not, but if I was, and I'm going into the mind of how he would be going into 2025 season, I would be saying that he's going to be absolutely dead on the money, trying to make sure that if Liam Lawson puts a single toe out of line, Yuki Tsunoda is delivering brilliant performances and is proving race after race after race that if Liam Lawson isn't up to the cut, he certainly is. So I hope that we're going to be seeing a very invigorated and energized version of Yuki Tsunoda, and hopefully can keep his anger under control, still deliver some of his hilarious lines for the fans.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if Liam isn't able to impress, will we see Yuki Tsunoda be swapped out mid-season?
You never know.
We'll have to see.
But joining Yuki Tsunoda at Racing Bulls, formerly Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, formerly AlphaTauri, formerly Toro Rosso.
Really sticking with this one, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is Isaac Hadjar. Again, a rookie driver, debuting for the first time. He is 20 years old and became a Red Bull Junior in 2022. So in 2022, he had 3 race victories and finished 4th in Formula 3. In 2023, he had no victories in Formula 2. And in 2024, he had 4 podium finishes, narrowly missing the Formula 2 title. And the Red Bull boss, Christian Horner, said he is definitely raw talent and said he needs a little bit of polishing, but he has the speed. So expect great things?
Question mark?
Yeah.
You know what, Reem? That was the best input you could have given. Next driver.
Moving on to Williams.
We've got a nice one and a fan favourite for the next driver, which is Alex Albon. He's 28 years old. He debuted in 29 with Toro Rosso. We're starting to see how much influence the grid has from Red Bull now.
Toro Rosso, in case you didn't know, then was rebranded to AlphaTauri, which was then rebranded to Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, which is this year going to be just called Racing Bulls.
Thank you for that.
That's all right.
He's known for being a cutie. It's actually in my notes.
baby.
Is he?
I think he's a cutie.
Okay.
He's got a very smooth driving style. He's got great tyre management. He's got strong racecraft, but he's also got an incredibly brilliant comeback story in Formula One. Albon had a relatively rapid rise to Formula One, competing in various junior series before getting his chance with Toro Rosso in 2019. His performances were impressive enough to earn him a promotion to Red Bull Racing mid-season, replacing Pierre Gasly. Albon's time at Red Bull was very challenging. He struggled to consistently match the pace of his teammate, Max Verstappen, as many others have, faced immense pressure to deliver results, and after a season and a half, he was replaced by Sergio Perez. He spent a year as Red Bull's reserve driver, working on his skills and preparing for a potential return, which, if we think about it, would have been very difficult for him. He's been given this opportunity to be in a top team, and he's then being yanked out of that seat and opportunity, and is then having to get this person that's replaced him up to speed. And not only that, is then having to spend hours in an F1 simulator in a factory and going off to races and listening at driver briefings internally at Red Bull about how he can work hard to find the changes to be able to add additional performance for 2 drivers when he isn't able to drive the car. So he decided that he wanted to be the best reserve driver he could be so that he could get himself back into the sport. And that's essentially what he did. Yeah. His opportunity came with Williams, where he has since become a team leader and has consistently outperformed the car's capabilities. And it's no secret that Williams is working on a multi-year project and is still building towards long-term success. The progress that they've made under the new team principal, James Vowles, who comes from Mercedes, and also Alex Albon, is undeniable and exciting to see them move in the right direction. So he has long been established as the lead driver for Williams. However, he's got his work cut out for 2025 because he's got Carlos Sainz coming to be his teammate. And as we know, Carlos Sainz was out of a seat in Ferrari because Lewis Hamilton decided to go there. So he's going to have his work cut out to continue to prove that he's the leader and he's the driver that they should be putting his money on.
So, moving on to Carlos Sainz. He is 30 years old and debuted in 2015 with Toro Rosso, which then became AlphaTauri, which then became Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, which then became Racing Bulls. And he was paired with Max Verstappen back then. He has 4 race wins and 27 podiums to his name. And he is also the son of the double world rally champion, Carlos Sainz Sr. In his Formula One career, he then went on to replace his childhood hero Fernando Alonso, who used to race for McLaren back in 2019, where he and Lando became besties, basically, and earned the ship name Carlando. And then he replaced Sebastian Vettel at Ferrari in 2021, and now for this year he is going to be racing for Williams. Now, like we've said, this isn't necessarily by choice, but by necessity, because Carlos was obviously booted out of his Ferrari seat by Lewis Hamilton, and just needed a job for the year. Now, many thought, myself included, that he would have been swept up by either Mercedes or Red Bull because he was coming from, a prestigious seat like a Ferrari. It wasn't really expected that he would be going to a team so far down in the grid, and obviously we knew that Mercedes had a seat going where Lewis Hamilton used to sit, and Red Bull would most likely have a seat available where Perez used to be. But neither of them took him up, and Williams did, so here's where we are.
Is it because of his track record?
No, he's a very good racer.
I think as well, for 2024, he knew going into the season that he wasn't going to be racing for Ferrari by the end of the year. He would have to find a new seat, and he was driving like a man possessed. I mean,
he had a point to prove, and he proved it.
Yeah, he was. I think sometimes in the sport there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders, and the same as if a driver knows that their future is secured within a team, they relieve a bit of pressure and they just are able to enjoy racing. The same can happen when they know that they just have a point to prove, but their future is uncertain. It's like he's going out there and he's driving for his life, for his career. And he gave us some stunning performances around 2024. And I still am a bit frustrated with Red Bull for not taking up the opportunity to have him, especially as he was in the junior driver program of Red Bull. It would be like he was coming home. So it was frustrating.
And he had been Max's teammate in the past. He knows what that is like mentally.
If not the track record, then do you think it has to do with age?
No,
because they went for kind of younger rookie drivers.
No, I think Mercedes had already made the decision, even before Lewis announced that he was moving to Ferrari, to put all of their eggs in Kimi Antonelli's basket. And I don't think, and this is no slight to Liam Lawson, because we don't truly know what he is capable of in a race car because we have only seen him racing for short stints. I don't think Red Bull were ever going to give Max Verstappen a teammate that we know is like very competitive and very capable of winning races. Because Max doesn't want that. Max wanted Perez to stay because Perez makes Max look good. And I think if Sainz was put in a seat next to Max, he may have even had times of outperforming Max. And I don't think they wanted that.
They didn't want the competition.
No.
I agree. I mean, another school of thought is that Sainz is obviously 30 years old. So he's neither a rookie coming into the sport with an exciting sort of, this is one to watch. He's also not someone that has come into the sport and has a legacy for winning world championships, so any team would want to take up that experience and that passion and that knowledge of winning. He sort of falls somewhere in the middle, and I think even though he has so much promise and is just a brilliant racer, he's really good fun to watch Carlos Sainz race when he's in the zone. It's almost like he ended up losing out, even though there's so much promise as a package that he delivers. Williams are on the upward trajectory, and I hope, Williams have actually got themselves an absolute gold mine.
Oh, they really have.
Lineup.
They really have.
It's a really strong lineup. And I think that across 2024, Williams were no slouch, especially in race pace and qualifying in moments. They had real flashes of brilliance that came through. So justice for Carlos in some areas. However, he was very gracious of the fact that he was losing his seat out to Lewis Hamilton. And we wish him nothing but good fortune because we like Carlos Sainz.
And I know what you're thinking, Reem. He's been in the sport for 10 years. There must be a bit of drama.
And I love drama.
Yeah. But actually, it's not Carlos Sainz bringing the drama. It's his dad.
Oh.
Yeah. So Carlos Sainz Sr. wasn't very impressed by the fact that his son was going to lose his Ferrari seat. And he had said that Ferrari was happy with Carlos, but Lewis's interest in joining Ferrari made that switch happen. And he also said that it wasn't Ferrari approaching Lewis, it was actually Lewis approaching Ferrari. And before Lewis did that, Ferrari's head weren't turning. And it was Carlos Sainz Sr. who leaked the news to Toto Wolff, who is Mercedes' team principal, about the fact that Lewis was going to be leaving. So he was just, running around spreading all this gossip.
Snitching.
Yeah, he was snitching. Yeah.
Some people would call it informing.
I think he's a snitch.
Basically, yeah. He was a bit salty about the fact that his son was losing his seat, so he went around spreading all the news.
Salty or just business-minded. If you're giving Toto Wolff a heads up, by the way, your world champion is going to be leaving for Ferrari, where my son is my son doesn't have a seat. Maybe we have a coffee and we think about
But
maybe
it didn't work.
Listen, I didn't say it worked. I'm saying, is he just business-minded? Reem's out here calling him a snitch.
But I mean, there's conspiracies, right, about Mercedes messing with Lewis's car for the last season because he was leaving. Do you think it could have also been just pettiness because
Maybe,
Toto
yeah.
then knew that Lewis was actively seeking out Ferrari?
Potentially, yeah. Now, Ferrari did give Carlos a lovely farewell from the team, allowing both him and his father to drive a Formula One car at the Fiorano track. So at least he got a nice send-off.
I mean,
That makes up for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something to tell the grandkids.
Exactly.
Cool.
Are you still with us?
Barely.
Okay. Well, the good news is we've only got one team left,
Perfect.
and it is Sauber.
Who?
Sauber?
I've not heard of them. Have they been in the race the whole time?
Now, it won't shock you to hear they didn't win the title last year, as you haven't even heard of them.
In fact, they were last, which is why they're at the bottom of this list.
There's a completely new lineup for Sauber coming into 2025, and the first racer we're going to talk about is Nico Hülkenberg. Now, you're probably thinking, is he feeling okay? I was just quoting Daniel Ricciardo, who once said his name like that. You're all welcome, viewers. Hope you're entertained. Available for birthday parties. He's 37 years old. He debuted in F1 in 2010. He's known for his great pace and exceptional qualifying pace. However, he suffers from a terrible affliction called the podium curse.
Dun, dun, dun.
Thank you. We can add that in post if that didn't
Yeah.
sound great. The fact that he started more Grand Prix than any other driver in Formula One history without ever achieving a podium finish.
That is impressive in itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's eluded him. He's had many opportunities where it might have happened, it might not happen, and it just hasn't worked out for him. But we don't judge. We listen and we
Yes,
don't
we
judge.
do.
Oh, all right.
Oh. Sorry, Nico Hülkenberg. She is not a fan.
Something that's gone down in infamy for fans, and also went quite viral, was during the Hungarian Grand Prix, Magnussen aggressively defended his position against Nico Hülkenberg, forcing him off the track. Hülkenberg then decided to confront Magnussen after the race, and Magnussen responded with the now infamous line, "Suck my balls." The exchange was caught on camera, and it became a viral sensation.
Well, at least he's known for one thing.
Yeah.
Having someone say, suck my balls.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you, if he was to hear the rundown of what we've just said about him as a racer, he's probably going to be very irritated. I've said, you've never
Kids on the podcast. We're getting the legal team.
Helen,
you
are we
listening?
okay?
So we're basically, to summarise, he's got great pace, but he's never won a podium, and he also got told to suck his balls.
So, to summarise, he's okay.
Yeah.
That's generous.
Allegedly. Him and Magnussen did go on to be teammates at Haas. However, they both seemed to prioritise the team goals and working together to gather data and improve the car setup. And eventually, no one sucked anyone's balls. So that's the best. No, of course, that's disgusting.
That we know of.
I'm upset
What
that
goes on in the garage stays in the garage.
So after his time at Haas, he is now starting a new season with a new team in Sauber, and he has yet another rookie to be alongside him. Nav, take it away.
Now, this rookie's name is Gabriel Bortoletto. He is 20 years old and debuting in F1 this year for Sauber, and he is going to be the first Brazilian to compete in the sport full-time since Felipe Massa in 2017. So he started karting at the age of 7 and was soon winning local championships. He had back-to-back Formula 3 and Formula 2 titles in 2023 and 2024, the latter season including a remarkable rise from last to first during the Monza feature race. And his situation was complicated slightly by his driver development deal with McLaren, signed shortly after he won his Formula 3 title, but given the fact that they had already locked in their drivers in Lando and Oscar, they decided they didn't want to stand in his way and let him go off to Sauber. And that's all we have on him, because he's a newbie. So watch this space, I guess.
So there you have it. That is all 20 drivers. There's everything you need to know about every driver that's going to be gracing the track for 2025.
But that is just the tip of the iceberg, because on the next episode, we'll be giving you all of the team news, drama, controversies that you didn't even know you were desperate to learn. You think you've heard drama in this episode, just you wait.
Oh, I'm very excited. That was a lot of information, and I'm sure I'm going to remember about 30% of this.
Like I said, I'm going to get you a transcript of this recording so you can start revising for your mid-season test.
Thank you. I'll be using ChatGPT to summarize.
Not smart.
Make sure that you subscribe to the show on your podcast player of choice and follow us on socials. We'll put the links down in the show notes so that you can keep up to date with the Grand Prix.